So what would you say to an entrepreneur who is hesitant to hand over the reins to a chief of staff? What would you say to that person?
I would say that you're not necessarily handing over the reins. The chief of staff role can look very, very different dependent on so many different factors: the business leader, the industry, the product, the how the business runs, like the life cycle of things. It can look very different. You, as the business leader, would still own what you need to own. There's no question. However, you're going to feel more prepared. You're going to be spending your time on less on things that don't matter as much. Like, you do need to have that mindset of like, I'm ready to spend my time a little bit more on the high reward things, right? Like business development, leadership of the team, growth, 5-year planning, product development, if you're, a product focused company, right? So you're not giving up control over those important things. You are walking into a room more prepared. You're letting somebody else figure out your meeting cadence with your executive team. You're ensuring your executive team has visibility into everything you're doing because you haven't been able to give that in the past. You're too busy. You're making sure that you're not the one overseeing events anymore, like all hands. You're letting the chief of staff do that and get approvals from you. You're still in the know. You're still approving, but you're not doing the heavy lifting. So you're still engaged in the business, and a good chief of staff is going to ensure that you are engaged in the business and you do have visibility into the things that matter, but that you're spending your time on the things that really only the CEO or the business leader should be doing.
So being a chief of staff, I think you said, is like managing the chaos behind the scenes. So as a chief of staff, a former chief of staff, as someone who trains chiefs of staff, what's one of the dirty little secrets about business and executive leadership that most people wouldn't realize?
Well, some people know this and some people don't, but a lot of times executives aren't great leaders. They've gotten into leadership roles because they have incredible companies, or they're really, really smart and they've moved quickly, right? But they may not have leadership experience, and they may not have ever cared to really develop that part of them because they're working on other things. So a chief of staff is a way also to hire for that opportunity of yours. So if it's a dirty little secret, it's probably one that some of us already know, that business leaders aren't always the best leaders, even though they're running, sometimes like very, very, very large companies.
Well, and you're working with really high-powered executives all the time. I would ask you, what's the one thing in your opinion that separates the really good leader from one who's just playing CEO?
Caring about people, spending time on people, asking them how they're doing, how they feel, and making business decisions that show they care about their people.
Yeah, that's really good insight. Well, let me ask you a personal question about this, and not too personal, but what's a moment in your career, especially maybe as a chief of staff, where you had this moment of realization, I'm completely out of my depth here. I don't know what I'm doing. And like, tell us about that moment and what you did with it.
I think that some other people on like listening along would maybe be like, oh yeah, me too there. Well, when COVID happened, there was a lot of activities that nobody planned for. And one of those was return to office. And across companies everywhere, chiefs of staff were often tapped to lead like return to office initiatives or COVID response initiatives for their companies, or at least for their business units. And that was absolutely something that I was like out of my depth in. I didn't understand like, where do we even start? So I was on a COVID response team, and then I was on a return to office team representing really the whole company, trying to decide on a whole company, by the way, of 100,000 employees, trying to figure out what are our rules? How do they align? What are the Washington state rules? What are all 50 state rules? Because we've got employees everywhere. What do we want to mandate? What shouldn't we mandate? How does this settle, like, politically, like all of the things that and the thing is, chiefs of staff are always stepping into opportunities where they've never been before. And what makes a chief of staff strong is the ability to figure it out and to kind of stay calm through it. So I was definitely like, okay, this is a first, but it was a first for many. And, we figured it out, and I'm better for it.
Hey there, it's the real Jason Duncan. Thank you for watching this video. If you are an entrepreneur and you've ever thought about what it's going to be like when you get ready to exit your business, I'm the guy you want to follow. So make sure that you've subscribed to this channel and go check out the link in the description, therealjasonduncan.com. Check out the resources I've got for people just like you, as an entrepreneur who's trying to get his life back, get her life back, get your time and freedom back. We've got a couple other videos you might be interested in. There's one here and there's one here. If that's what you want as an entrepreneur, if you're being trapped in your business, then I can help you get out of that. So go to therealjasonduncan.com. The link is in the description, and check out one of these videos. I'll see you next time.